Hello there, YouTubers of the internet. Today I'm going to be doing a fan fiction reading. This is my second time doing a fan fiction, so let's begin. Apprehension, suspicion of fear of future trouble or evil. Dr. Two Brains wouldn't know what hit him. He picked the wrong day to tried to turn all the fish in the city aquarium into giant goldfish crackers, while dozens of screaming visitors poured out the main entrance. Our girl zipped into the building, clenching her fists as frustration boiled over. Captain Huggyface shrieked for her to slow down, his lanky chimp arms wrapped tightly around her neck. He was nearly catapulted off her back when she halted instantly, but Word Girl was too flustered to pay him any mind. She barely noticed when he jumped from her back onto a pelican statue hanging from the ceiling. In the center of a huge lobby lined with all manner of tanks, decorations, habitats, one visitor/animal clearly didn't belong. The mouse-brained mad scientist laughed maniacally at the controls of the machine, the same size and shape as a freshly punched hole in the wall. The gazebo resembled a construction crane, except it had 5 arms that all ended in ray guns firing in every direction, and when colorful beams of energy hit the tanks, the animals inside transformed into oven-baked versions of themselves. The operator didn't seem to care or even notice that they would all be soaked before he had the chance to eat any of them. That was typical. Villain's pink eyes turned up to look at Word Girl, and he regarded her with his usual challenging smile. Well, if it isn't Word Girl, here to see my latest breakthrough? It turns each species into a cracker with a different cheese flavor. I wonder what flavor we'll choose for a little alien girl. I'm warning you, Dr. Two Brains, Word Girl snarled, pointing straight at him with one hand and making a fist with the other. I'm not in the best mood right now. She charged but had to dodge a flavor blast that came her way. Zigzagging toward the machine, she managed to get a hold of one of the ray arms and ripped it off with a single hateful pull, using it to bat aside the arm that attacked her from the left. Wow, you weren't kidding, Dr. Two Brains observed. What are you so miffed about? Miffed? One of the villain's henchmen asked, shrugging beside his boss's contraption. Miffed means annoyed or put into an irritable mood because of something frustrating that happened, Girl sneered. And don't even get me started. I've been fighting Toby's robots for the past 2 hours. He destroyed 3 buildings, my favorite park bench, made me miss lunch, and I don't even know what the whole thing was about. Uh-huh, that's nice, Dr. Two-Brain said, trying to give her the brush off. Now hold still while I turn you and your sidekick into fish chips. Girl dropped the metal appendage she was holding and retreated in a flash when 2 rays fired simultaneously in her direction. She wasn't about to let that stop her, though. He asked what she was angry about, and he was going to get the whole answer. I mean, come on, she complained loudly, dashing back and forth to dodge the beams zapping constantly at her. Why in the world would you destroy a state building, a movie theater, and a dry cleaner? It doesn't even make any logical sense. He's supposed to be a genius, isn't he? Dr. Two Brains frowned, jerking multiple joysticks back and forth in his ongoing effort to blast her. Well, you're supposed to be a superhero, and you're not even trying to destroy my goldfish machine anymore, so I'm just so sick of dealing with him. I can't even go to school. I mean, fly over school without worrying what what kind of crazy robot scheme he's going to come up with next. It's driving me crazy. Boy, you weren't kidding about not getting you started either, Dr. Two Brains drawled, groaning in frustration. Listen, You could either keep still or keep quiet because this battle is starting to get kind of unsighted. I am serious. If I have to listen to one more gloating rant in that infuriating accent of his, I think I'll. Oh, enough already! Dr. Two Brains yelled, squeezing hard on the controls of his machines. Toby's a pain, I get it. You ought to be grateful he's not worse. Worse? Wargirl snapped. How could it be worse? He'd be worse. Ah, how can he be worse? The mad scientist repeated with a sinister chuckle. uh, he's your age, isn't he? Yeah? Wargirl muttered, her anger giving way to curiosity. And you're what? 12? 12 and a half, Wargirl corrected. So what? Dr. Toothbrain shrugged. Look, all I'm saying is that if you can't handle him now, you got another thing coming. What do you mean? The young superhero asked, starting to feel nervous for reasons she didn't completely understand. Just what I said. I'm telling you, word girl, that kid's a time bomb. You think he's a menace now? Wait until he's a teenager and his emotions are running wild. Wait until he's an adult and he's not afraid of his mother anymore. It won't be pretty. I can promise you that. He won't be 12 forever, and as he gets older, he's just going to get smarter, more powerful, and more evil. Now, can we please forget about Toby and finish our battle? Word Girl didn't respond. What Dr. Twobrain said about Toby stirred her in a strange feeling of deep concern. His words made a scary sort of sense, and she found herself mentally running through the scenarios he had mentioned. The possibilities sent a chill down her spine. Her stupor was broken by the sound of Captain Huggyface shrieking in her ear as he tacked her out of the way of a blast from the doctor's machine. They both fell into an open-top fish tank with a splash, and when they popped their heads back from the water, the villain was already making his escape. Ugh, that was a huge disappointment, he shouted back to her from his machine as his henchman pulled several crates full of soggy fish crackers out the giant hole in the wall. You better get back in form before my next caper, word girl. And with that, he followed his henchman out of the entrance turned exit they had made and was gone. Word girl might have been able to stop him if she tried, but all of her fighting spirit had left her. With a flustered sigh, she lifted her sidekick out of the smelly aquarium water, and once they were on the ground, he shook moisture from his fur while she wrung out her hair, lost in thought. You think he's a menace now? Dr. Twobrain's words repeated in her mind. He won't be 12 forever, and as he gets older, he's just going to get smarter, more powerful, and more evil. Huggy gave a concerned chirp, asking if she was okay, and Word Girl looked into his worried eyes with the somber expression of her own. Do you think he's right? Do you think Toby will get worse? Captain Huggyface shrugged and moaned apologetically. Word Girl could tell, however, that that she wasn't the only one who had taken the mad doctor's bladder to heart. Virgo landed in her front yard and after taking a quick look around to make sure no one was watching, pressed a star on her chest. In a flash of light, her superhero outfit transposed with her usual purple skirt, green sweater, and saddle shoes. She was back to being Becky Boxford again. If only she could change her train of thought as quickly as she could change her identity. With a sigh, she approached the front door to her house, but she stopped in her tracks when she picked up a voice from inside that she hadn't expected to hear. I just don't know what to do with him, Sally, it said. Becky gasped. That's that's Miss McAllister. Bob, now back in his diaper instead of his sidekick getup, squeaked a question. I think she's talking to Mom about Toby, Becky answered. Hold on. She stood by the door and Bob waited as she listened. He's still young, Miss Boxford said in a comforting tone. I'm sure if you keep being firm with him, he'll come around eventually. He's 12, Toby's mother exclaimed, and Becky almost jumped in surprise. She had never seen the woman so upset. He'll be 13 soon, and you know better than anyone, teenagers can be tried as adults for serious crimes. With his record, do you think there's even a chance that the courts will go easy on him? All was silent for a moment, and Becky was once again in shock. She never encountered a time when her mother was speechless before. Miss McAllister heaved a wavering sigh, and her voice betrayed tears. I just don't understand. Some days, when he's calm and happy, I can see the sweet little boy he was years ago, before all this villain nonsense. But just when I'm starting to think I've gotten through to him, and that my baby has really come back to me, he just goes off and smashes a building. How am I supposed to deal with that? It was quiet for another long moment, and Becky noticed she could hear her own heart racing. She felt guilty. Miss McAllister had never been more to her than a colorful bit of background in her life, and occasionally a useful means of dealing with Toby. As much as the boy drove her crazy, Becky had never really thought about how it must be for her mother, realizing that the woman was practically heartbroken with fear for her son's future painted the McAllister family in a completely different light. To think that all this time, while Becky had been merely tolerating Toby, his mother had been wearing herself ragged. That was just so sad. There, Claire, her mom cooed in a soothing tone. You're doing your best for Toby. Have faith in your son. I'm trying, Sally. I'm really trying. Becky bit her lip and decided she heard enough. She grabbed Bob and zipped around the house to the upstairs window leading to her room. As she opened it and floated inside, her heart welled with compassion for Miss McAllister, as well as worry for the city's future. She didn't want to admit it, but Dr. Twobrains had been right. This new development with Toby's mother proved it. She collapsed on her bed, breathing heavily as she tried to sort out through her jumbled thoughts. Bob gave an understanding moan and stood faithfully by her side. Wow! A faceless voice she recognized all too well. Things are really heating up in the drama department as you approach your teens, huh? I know! Becky agreed, throwing her hands and letting them flop back down to her pillow. Just a few months ago, almost thought I almost lost my best friend in a secret identity crisis. And now this? That was a pretty convenient timing, wouldn't you say? Dr. Two Brains saying all that stuff about Toby right before you overheard your mom talking to Miss McAllister about him. He acted like he was trying to be subtle, though clearly he wasn't. Honestly, it was surprising he had taken this long to say something. He must have been enjoying watching everything unfold. I'm used to convenient timing, Becky said. What bothers me is that usually convenient timing means I need to do something. Do something about do something about Toby? The narrator asked. What can you do about Toby that you haven't been doing since the fifth grade? I don't know. Hmm. Hmm. Covering her, Becky groaned. Covering her face in frustration, she perked up, however, and smiled as she remembered that what, or rather, who had opened this can of worms in the first place. But, she muttered in a sly voice, thoughtfully grasping her chin, I might know someone who does. Here's a quote. For I know the plans I have for you, unquote, declares the Lord. Quote, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and future, unquote. Jeremiah 29:11. Thank you for listening, and please comment down below if you would like me to finish this fanfic. Thank you, and have a nice rest of your day.